Okay, you guys, this Project 2025 video I did a couple weeks ago racked up more comments in less time than anything I've ever done, and no, that is not a good sign. So today we're going to go through the insightful, the idiotic, and the mildly disturbing, coming up next. This is CityNerd, weekly content on cities and transportation. Viewer-suggested topics always welcome, and here's one. I'm in the process of moving to a swing state now, partially influenced by your swing states video, but in the event that we keep on this trajectory towards a Handmaid's Tale suburban hellscape, maybe you can suggest some cities for those of us who may choose to go the expat route. Handmaid's Tale? Let's not get hysterical. Although, maybe it isn't overreacting. I actually did what this viewer basically suggested, which was to attempt to submit my own application to the portal on the Project 2025 website, in the hopes of landing a high-level position in the new Republican administration, and the screening questions are amazing. These are all "do you agree with the following statements" questions, and you better choose the correct answers on systemic racism, the gender wage gap, and the foundational importance of family and religion. Before we get too far into this, a quick recap on how I deal with comments. The algorithm really does a pretty good job of sorting the highest value comments to the top of the feed. And what I do is, Thursday morning every week, I read the top 10 comments and usually respond. I don't even bother reading the rest, which I assume get progressively stupider. This week was a major exception though, and I did read every single one of the over 4,000 comments I've received so far. And believe me when I say, this was not a plus for my sanity. And given my approach, it makes this one all the more confusing. Really, Ray? What's particularly sick about you deleting my comment is that I'm a vote blue no matter who guy this election cycle. Still, I care about the truth. So I obviously didn't even read your comment, much less delete it, so I'm thinking skill issue? Okay, the first subset of comments I want to talk about is people who basically agree with me but added some nuance that I probably missed. For example, I do think I have a tendency to dance around the edges of whatever it is I'm talking about, so it's nice to have viewers just be really direct about it. The thing about Project 2025 is that it benefits no one but the rich and conservative, but far more than the 1% will unknowingly vote for it. That's why it's our job to help educate people. We may be stupid, but at least we can be informed. And with that, I think I just found the new tagline for this channel. On the topic of the document's recommendation to cancel all federal grant programs and just send all the money directly to the states, which really is a bedrock small government conservative idea, I felt like I did a decent job of explaining why that's a big mistake, but this viewer brought up the example I wish I had thought of, which is the Mississippi state government taking millions in federal welfare money to build a volleyball stadium for Brett Favre's kid, including $1 million that went right into Favre's pocket. I'm pretty sure that's the exact opposite of welfare, and the underlying point here is state legislatures by their nature are often even more disproportionately rural-leaning than the US Senate and the Electoral College, so devolving power to states is, in most cases, even more retrograde than the system we have now. Mixed feedback on the segment on public transit. Again, maybe I'm bad at stating the obvious, but this viewer had no such problem. I have this horrible feeling that the redefinition of public transit could also be there to open the door to privatization of our existing public transit systems. And I think that is the correct takeaway, but also, I don't usually venture into the liberal echo chamber, but y'all should realize that most people don't want more public transportation, and most people don't want to live in dense urban areas. I'm not going to say there isn't a liberal echo chamber, but I think we should all at least be able to agree on some basic facts. Way more Americans live in large metro areas than don't, and the most expensive, meaning highest demand parts of those metro areas are the dense inner neighborhoods. It is 2024 and you just can't escape being in some kind of echo chamber, but you can at least be in one that values factual information. I got several comments along the lines of, Project 2025 is all about speedrunning us into becoming a third world country. I'm an Iranian and I can tell you that Project 2025 would imitate the Iranian regime by making decisions based on policy, ideology, and corruption rather than logic. I can't vouch for the commenter's nation of origin, but this doesn't seem too far off. You know, it's funny, I never know which parts of my videos are gonna get a reaction, but apparently pointing out that the introduction to Project 2025 basically amounts to a Necronomicon style curse did seem to resonate. I didn't want to go so far as to say that The Mandate for Leadership is literally an unholy book, but one of my viewers pointed out that the name of the lead author of the chapter on the US Department of Transportation in German translates to the God of Fear, so that's a little concerning. I was honestly a bit worried that when I uploaded this video there would be a lot of unsubscribers and general backlash, but a bit of the opposite happened and a lot of you were very encouraging. I would even say a little too encouraging. I mean, if you're really suggesting that I make a 3-hour video essay that covers every single chapter of Project 2025, careful what you wish for, because I absolutely will do it. Also, this comment, completely out of bounds. And I don't totally get this, but some of you did comment just to let me know you didn't watch it. I can't watch because I'm already crushed by election anxiety, but I'm glad you're bringing attention to it, and I'm sure it is thoughtful and well-researched. At about the 9-minute mark or so, I felt my blood pressure had crept up too high, and I had to bail. That being said, thank you for making this video, leaving a like and a comment, but I'm just too scared to watch this one right now. And actually, reading through the totality of the comments did make me wonder how many people actually did watch the video. Probably not these people, who I'm guessing are just straight up trolls who I assume not only haven't read Project 2025, but don't care what's in it because the only thing that actually matters is that it makes the people they don't like mad. But some people are legitimately pro Project 2025. If you want strong urbanism, you have to have a high-trust society. If you want a high-trust society, you have to have secure borders and some amount of cultural homogeneity. Is this guy an urbanist? Because I kind of get the feeling he's just never been to a city. Also, a guy who doesn't see it as a problem if DC gets overrun by a bunch of Charlie Kirk wannabes, because Charlie Kirk actually has the correct views on everything. The most interesting comments really are the ones that are from people who just flat out disagree with me, because the things they say are just so revealing about how their brains work. Like, instead of blocking my channel, just don't watch it and the algorithm won't show it to you anymore. It's not that hard. Some of the comments are nearly indecipherable, but I'll try to be generous. I have actually read Project 2025, and all you have said about it is absolutely wrong. Your channel is Democrat misinformation. Also, no credible sources. So apparently we've reached the point where disinformation is defined as someone reading verbatim passages from the primary document itself, which is basically what my video was. Just brilliant. To be clear, 100% of your video is opinion. I agree with some points, but just because you say it doesn't make it true. We need to see an equally opinionated opposite view for fairness. You are sick and demented, and you'll get what's coming to you. And by the way, which vax booster are you on? Inflation is 7%. You do realize you can just Google this stuff, right? Although the Wall Street Journal is a noted leftist propaganda rag. And I just prayed for insults about soy, but instead I get fiber. 2 points about this. 1, these people are just really losing their edge. And 2, I can assure all of you that I am very, very regular. There was just shockingly little criticism of the actual substance of what I said in the video. More often, people just didn't like the way I said it. Posh liberal accent, opinion discarded. I've never had my speaking style described as posh, ever, so I'll take it. This guy sounds like an AI bot. You guys, I would not wish my rhetorical style on anyone, much less a computer. There was actually a lot of constructive criticism about my presentation style, though. You made some good points, but half the video was filler with monotone insults. Keep it more professional and you'll get more traction. 1, you're obviously new here, and 2, you must really be enjoying today's video. 5 minutes into a 20-minute video and nothing of value has been said. I want information about the plan, not your thoughts on appointed judges or that calling the project a different name would be more accurate in your opinion. I was gonna respond to this, but it seems like one of my viewers has it under control. Some people had trouble with the title of the video, which I've changed a couple times, but for most of the time it's been up on YouTube, was Project 2025's Genius Ideas on Cities and Transportation. And people took it to be in earnest because I guess they haven't seen this channel before. Until I did a double take on the thumbnail, I was worried you went anti-woke. There was also advice on how to be more obvious about my sarcasm. The sarcastic title and your tone throughout the video was really hard to suss out versus your regular speaking voice. I'd recommend quotation marks around the word genius in the title. Look, if I have to put quotes and sarcasm tags around things, then it isn't deadpan humor anymore, and if you don't like deadpan, this really just isn't the channel for you. Okay, in a minute I'm going to get to the most absurd comments I got on my original Project 2025 video. Be sure to click on all the usual screen elements if you're enjoying today's content. And if you appreciate me tackling political issues related to urbanism in the lead up to this November's election, your support on Patreon is a great way to express that. I am doing Patreon-funded trips to swing states in September and October, so connect on the apps if you want to stay up to date on that. Also, you may be wondering why I have different backdrops going on in today's video. Well, I'm in the middle of moving. As I speak to you, I'm literally hours away from moving out of my apartment in Albuquerque and moving on to a new city. There's a ton of stuff I'm gonna miss about Berkey, and mostly for me, it's third places. And I'll probably make a video about third places at some point, but it's the idea that the first two places are home and work, and the third place is where you can kind of do your own thing and feel connected to your community at the same time. In my case, I get a ton of work done at bars and coffee shops, so I want to shout out the places in Albuquerque that made me feel at home. For coffee, Little Bear, Zendo, and Humble. And for beer, High and Dry, Flock of Moons, and Sidetrack. So if you visit ABQ, and you should, I highly recommend all these places. They're great hangouts, the people are super cool, and the coffee/beer is fantastic. So let's talk about what I think was the most often repeated criticism I got. And it's this idea that Project 2025 is just ideas from a random think tank and not stuff Trump is actually going to do, despite how much of the Heritage Foundation's 2016 document got implemented during Trump's first go-around. And yes, I did point that out in the video. But it's like these people live in a world where the campaign promises of a guy who lies constantly carry more weight than his actual track record from the first time he held the job. It's Democrat propaganda. Nobody on the right knows anything about it. Yes, something that was literally written by the kind of conservatives who have been massively influential in Republican politics for nearly half a century is actually propaganda from the other side. Now I feel really stupid for not having realized that. Besides, did you know Trump is actually an urbanist? According to a guy who's active in the Michigan Republican Party who also thinks I should try being more like strong towns because they aren't patronizing, and furthermore, did I know that Trump is against sprawl actually? So you can like my style or not like my style, but there are something like a billion other videos on the platform that you could be watching. So it's a bit of a you problem if you're still here. At the same time though, I don't mind criticism. Good criticism makes this a better channel, but if you're trying to tone police, just keep in mind, there are a lot of different ways to reach persuadable people. And I did get a few comments like this one, which I think are maybe the ones I like the most. I really don't understand why walkable cities and good transport need to be a partisan issue. This is a massive loser move from the Republican Party, which puts me in a tough spot since I also don't like the Democrats either. Even my boomer dad, who watches Fox News every night, started to complain to me about NIMBYs and wishes the suburb he lives in was more walkable. I voted for Trump in 2020, but a lot of Project 2025 is way too radical for my taste. Okay, I lied. There is actually one other significant area where I took a lot of heat. If you watch the video on YouTube, in the sponsor segment near the end, I disparaged cargo pants, and that was apparently just a bridge too far for several people. Like, where else are you gonna put your harmonica? On the plus side, I guess that means people are actually still watching when I get to the part of the video where I start pitching travel gear made out of recycled materials, so at least that bodes well for future sponsor revenue. So, in summary, Project 2025 isn't real, it's just liberal propaganda. Project 2025 is real, but Republicans don't know anything about it. Or they know what Project 2025 is, and it's obviously full of terrible ideas, but Trump isn't actually going to do any of it. Or Project 2025 is actually great because liberal elites don't like it. And most importantly, cargo pants are good. A couple more. This viewer thinks we need a collective "I didn't think the leopards would eat my face" moment. And that does ring true to me somewhat, but this is a glass half full channel, and I prefer to think that at least 50.1% of the population prefers not to have their faces eaten by leopards. Or I guess it has to be like 54% because of the Electoral College, but I still think we can get there. Last one. This viewer paid me $25 to tell people to make sure they're registered to vote, and to help other people get registered too. I would have done it for free, but thanks. And I realize that voting once or twice a year can be kind of inconvenient, but just keep in mind, if the wrong person wins in November, there's a decent chance you won't be inconvenienced anymore. And that would be a leopards eating faces level calamity. And while we're on the subject of disasters, you would think there aren't really any more stories to tell about the RMS Titanic, but you'd be wrong. Because I have a very strong content recommendation for you. It's The Raising of the Titanic from the channel Neo, and it's the story of the pretty audacious effort to recover a big piece of the ship's starboard hull, known as the Big Piece, from the bottom of the ocean where it sat in the debris field in the 2,000 feet between where the Titanic's bow and its stern came to rest. Like all of Neo's stuff, The Raising of the Titanic is incredibly well done, with animations of the ingenious and possibly ill-fated techniques that were attempted to lift the big piece 12,500 feet to the surface of the ocean, and also really compelling discussion of the ethics behind salvaging historical artifacts from a catastrophic event and then monetizing them. There's plenty of hubris to go around, and I won't spoil it, but like any good story, basically everything that can go wrong does go wrong. The Raising of the Titanic from Neo's Underexposure series, which covers cool stories from history that are criminally underexposed, is a Nebula original and exclusive to the platform, and is just a perfect example of how Nebula supports creators in tackling ambitious ideas and bringing them to life with, in the case of the Underexposure series, research, historical footage, and incredibly well done recreations of key moments in the story. Being part of the Nebula community and being able to learn from all these other creators, and being able to access support for my own production processes has been just incredibly important for the growth of this channel, and I am extremely proud to be on the Nebula platform. It is, after all, a streaming service that's owned by us, the creators, so when you sign up, you're helping us grow a service that, by its very nature, supports all of us in a long-term structural way, financially, professionally, and creatively. So if you want to support the continued improvement of this channel and grow its ability to reach people and make a difference, signing up for Nebula really is the best possible way to do that. But remember, when you sign up, it's not only an investment in our community of creators, it's also an investment in continuing to make the Nebula streaming experience itself better and better. And that includes a new look and layout that makes it easier to not only find what you're looking for, but discover new content and new creators that you're really going to enjoy. One part of this is categories that function as their own kind of mini services, like news, which is run by the great team at TLDR News to ensure the journalistic and editorial integrity of what you're seeing on the platform. And you can't really overestimate the importance of that these days. Also, this year, my videos are going up early on Nebula, so if you want to move your viewing schedule up and avoid spoilers, a Nebula membership is a great way to do that. Because if you use my custom link down in the description, it's really an absurd value. You can get all the Nebula content for 40% off the regular price when you sign up for an annual subscription, and the lifetime offer is still available. $300, you pay once, and you get Nebula for as long as both you and Nebula exist. As always, whether that's a sound investment or not is a personal matter between you and your actuarial table of choice. Or here's another idea, Nebula gift cards. You can use my code to get the same great discounts, and then you have a great way to share all the Nebula content you enjoy with your family and friends. Even if they already have Nebula accounts, you can gift them a free year at the discounted price using my custom link down in the description. No matter which way you go, though, a Nebula membership is a fantastic way to demonstrate your support for a one-of-a-kind creator-owned platform and to fund the continued production of amazing originals like the Underexposure series. And Nebula keeps announcing and teasing new originals, and they just keep getting better and better. And for all of you who are already Nebula members, a massive thanks from me. Although I feel compelled to say, you should probably be watching this video on Nebula where it appears ad-free and without this Nebula promo section in it. Just a thought. And that's all I've got. Thanks for joining today, and thanks as always to the patrons for your direct support, which really does give me the freedom to say whatever it is I think needs to be said from week to week. Keep the great topic suggestions coming. I'll be back with a new episode next week, and I'll see you then.